Hey, Richard, welcome back to the Science of Psychotherapy podcast.
Yes, here we are. It's been a while since we've worked together.
It
Now,
has.
I've been continuing on, and people will be familiar with the one-on-ones and with others,
Yep.
and that will be continuing. We're going to keep doing those,
In
but
conversation with.
in conversation with.
Mhm.
But this is the special podcast where we're trying to make sense of what's going on in this complex world of ours.
Yep.
Uh, and,
Yep.
and and that's kind of a title where we're at, isn't it?
Yep.
Making sense of a complex world.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So as we try to make sense of this complex world, we're inviting you into the conversation as well. And so one of the things we want to do this year too is just ask for your feedback, ask for questions. And so if you do have questions, or just comments, uh, check out the link in the show notes, and there you can fill out a form, and that'll send us an email. And
Cool.
so based on some of your feedback, we might create different episodes around that theme.
And because that's the idea with this, Matt, a bit more interesting, a bit more fun, a bit quicker. We're just going to do
Yep.
20, 25 minutes, and we're going to do segments. So there'll be short and sweet. And people can look at what's interesting. There'll be
Mm.
something we'll talk about. Maybe we'll have some interesting activities or exercises or ideas. And of course, we're going to refer you back to interesting courses and stuff that we're doing at the Science of Psychotherapy Academy, which is still the most effective way to economically get your CEU points and get some great education. So that's what we're doing. This is what this is
Yep.
for. But one of the things we want to do, and of course the first part and the meat and potatoes, I suppose, which gives us this a theme for each show,
Yeah.
and one of us or we'll have some interaction. We'll
Yep.
talk about stuff that they've been seeing. What are people talking about? What are they saying? And
Mm.
can we make some sense of it? Uh,
Yep.
and you've actually come up with the theme for this first episode.
That's
Please
right.
hand it over to you to talk about a little bit and describe.
Okay, so are we seeing the collapse of reality, or at least our perception of reality? And so I'll just paint a bit of a picture of so the other day my wife and I were watching something on YouTube, and it was a YouTube about at a dog's shelter where people go and rescue animals, rescue dogs, and it was a situation where sort of people were standing with their backs to the a dog which would come into the room and then kind of like select their owner. And it was a really heartwarming kind of thing. And my wife and I are saying, well, where do they do this? This is amazing, And the dogs kind of can, sense who's going to be a good owner, and the owner's, response when the dog connects with them, is just so beautiful. And then I thought, I'll just have a look at the description and just find out where this happens. And then I find out the whole thing was artificial. It was an AI generated thing, and
Ah,
in the description, it just said, "This is what this is what we hope would happen," but it's completely AI generated.
so here
And
we are. Here we are, Matt. So this is the thing. So the AI monster, is it a monster or is it actually something benevolent? So obviously that sent you off because I was getting all into that. I thought, oh,
yeah,
that's so nice.
yeah,
And, and
yeah.
what did you find?
Well, uh, so I found that I felt completely duped, that I was taken in, and almost brought to tears by something that was completely artificial.
Hmm.
So this blurring the distinction between, simulated experiences and what's real leads to this state of, hyperreality.
We all live in the most unusual time ever. And this is something that people might say often, but I think it's actually true this time. And the reason it's true this time is because of AI.
What do you think about the idea that we're just a bunch of prompts?
If I'm generated from a prompt, how come I don't have 6 fingers?
Today, the line between what is real and what is simulated is fading quickly. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. Chatbots that seem like friends, videos that look completely real, and digital personas that exist only on screens. What used to be science fiction is now part of our daily lives. Along with this change comes something more troubling: the gradual loss of a shared, grounded reality.
Like virtual reality, can be useful. So we've seen in the past, and I think we've reported in the past about virtual reality for phobia therapies, right? So someone puts on, VR glasses and they're put in a situation where they're confronted by spiders or whatever the phobia might be. And, through exposure, they can deal with that phobia. But what we are experiencing now in what is like a hyperreal simulation is becoming very pervasive, and it's in through all of the media that we're receiving, not just dog and cat videos, which are completely synthesized, but AI generated content, in political discourse, in every area really of our lives. We're bombarded with something that isn't real.
The French philosopher Jean Baudrillard described a future where images and signs no longer connect to anything real. He called this hyperreality. He explained 4 stages. First, a sign reflects reality. Then it starts to distort it. Next, it claims to show something that no longer exists. And finally, in the stage we're in now, the sign stops pretending and becomes pure simulation, creating its own world without any link to reality.
Oh gosh, Matt. Yeah, 'cause I saw something the other day. I'm terrible. I keep getting interested and I'm looking at all these things. So I'm in the algorithm, so I get everything. So some of it's terrible. But anyway, this guy was actually touting this thing of having an avatar, having your avatar,
Right.
and in the space of time, 10, 15 seconds, he had the speech and it shifted from one person to, well, about 4
Oh, yeah,
people.
yeah.
And it actually and changed the voice, it changed the background, changed everything. And like with the dog and cat video when you were talking before, I mean, it was kind of talking about what kind of happens in real circumstances, but we just made it easy because it was too hard to film the dogs. They wouldn't smile for the camera. But when you're actually saying things that aren't true, I mean, this is the big thing that we've had in we're having socio and politically. It's just people lie to us. This has
Yeah.
got to affect us.
Absolutely. So there is that whole like propaganda potential aspect to hyperreality. And then there's also because this hyperreal environment, the simulacrum that we get drawn into, it caters to our left hemisphere, which, we've talked a lot about Ian McGilchrist and his work on the divided brain. And the decontextualized environment that these simulations are very much can cater to the left hemisphere's way of perceiving the world, which means that it can be completely decontextualized and disconnected from actual reality, and create its own kind of reality, if you want to call it like another type of reality. And our left hemisphere will accept it and integrate that and believe that it's actually real. Do you remember the movie Her, where the
Oh,
guy
yes.
falls in love with his operating system?
Yeah. It was brilliant. Brilliant movie.
It was a brilliant movie.
Ah,
But he got, he got sort of sucked in to this sense of that the algorithm, the operating system was his girlfriend, and someone that was real. And we're finding that this is happening. It's not just, fiction anymore. Finding people that are leaning into this today, where they are finding intimate relationship with an algorithm.
yeah. I mean, this context thing you talk about. I mean, in my doctoral research, which
Mm.
yeah, I'm just finishing. Um, Context was really one of the fundamental elements. There were others. There was some, systems, relational aspects, integration, and context. So if you lie about the context, then
Yep.
then reality. Well, this is what you're talking about. This hyper reality. What do we do? What do we do other than become aware and talk about it?
Mm.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, so awareness is the first thing we have to understand that as real as these AI simulated environments might seem, and as much as they play up to our ego, there's a thing called sycophancy bias where these large language models have been trained to try and be a yes man. Whatever you suggest, and it'll kind of agree with you. I think they're getting a little bit better. I know OpenAI did try and reverse that a little bit, but people complained that they kind of liked the sycophancy bias, and so they sort of put it back in. Uh, the trouble with that is, from a clinical perspective, those that do, suffer from delusions, this sycophancy bias can amplify delusions because the AI will sort of agree with your delusions. So people with, schizophrenia and those sort of psychopathologies, it's quite dangerous.
Yeah, there might be a
Uh,
few political leaders around that are doing the same thing. But it is interesting how it can play out. Sycophantic agreement. We can see it over history. That what was that thing with Caesar when he came back after a big battle, would have one of the centurions behind him saying, "You are but mortal. You are but
right.
mortal. Remember your place. Remember reality."
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
so reality, um, on screen and in audio and in a lot of things is starting to be questionable. So
That's right.
my mind goes to, so if you want to get real, you actually have to real reality. I mean, there's a lot been
Yep.
talk about now about grounding, about getting
Mm.
back to nature. Is that the pathway? The
No,
best?
absolutely we have to unplug, right? I mean, if this whole digital world is leading us into a hyperreal simulacrum, then unplugging from that world and yeah, like you said, grounding, getting back to nature, to real face-to-face connection with people, these sort of things I think are essential to ground us in reality.
Uh,
So,
Yeah, I'm actually looking at some of the notes you sent me. Here's one of the things in the Science of Psychotherapy here in the Academy. But this was Christina Hibbert, and she was talking about mental health through exercise, how to
mm,
incorporate physical activity into psychotherapeutic treatment. And in fact, tonight I'll be teaching in Italy, and exercise is is one of the themes that we're talking about it. So you can
yep.
believe in your own activity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The interesting thing about exercise as therapy as well, and Christina does this in her article, she lists a huge list of all sorts of mental health benefits that exercise has. She explains a little bit of the neuropsych that's behind that. But really, when you look at the research, exercise on its own, in many cases, outweighs the benefits of psychotherapy. Now, that's not to say, give up on your psychotherapist and just go to the gym, but it has enormous effects. And I would say that it's probably one of the best grounding things that you can do, uh, as long as you don't sort of go on doing your exercise plugged in and watching, some
To
other
the altered
environment
realities.
that, yeah.
But I do remember when Dan Siegel, a good friend with interpersonal neurobiology, he would do podcasts with us walking on a walking machine, because he was a
Yeah.
great advocate for exercise, but also play.
Yes.
Play is important. I mean, I talk a lot about this. There's a wonderful we've got a wonderful again another wonderful article in the Academy on play as a neural exercise by Stephen
Mm.
Porges, talking about in relation to the polyvagal, which is really interesting stuff. I mean, we're
Yeah.
we're coming in from all different angles, all sort of saying, yeah, get in touch. I know Japan
Yep.
does a lot of this. They because
Mm.
they're
Mm.
so disconnected, and they all go out for bushwalks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that Stephen emphasizes in his article about play is the aspect of playing together and face to face. So he's addressing issues with children, and children are very good at play, but it extends to adults as well. And so the reason I bring up the face-to-face aspect is so yes, we could jump online and play an online game with somebody else, but and we can do that in a virtual reality space, but that's not quite what Stephen's getting at. He's talking about being in a real environment, face-to-face, physically, in a real environment with people, because there's a lot going on in our system when it comes to being in proximity with one another, not just online.
Yes, and sometimes these organized games, I mean, I like play, which is unregulated, but organized games, not everybody's a sycophant in there. In fact,
Yeah, 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 that's
you've
right.
got a whole bunch of other people on the other side who
Yeah,
are who you have to deal with their stuff. It's dealing with stuff. It actually brings me up something, and maybe we'll talk about it next week. The how we just sort of give in to the simplicity, just make it easy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
let me talk about that next week.
Mm,
What have
mm.
what have we missed? What have we missed of what you
So
said?
there's a few more things that I guess we can point people to when it comes to being grounded and being aware of, what is going on in, this new hyper reality that everyone is faced with. So first of all, I'll point you to the paper that I've just written. So there's a free version available on the Science of Psychotherapy. There'll be a link in the show notes for that. And if you're a member, then you can do the reading material as a course, get a certificate for reading and answering some questions. And then there's a bunch of other articles that I think could be useful for therapists, especially when we talk about grounding, to do with art. And I know Karen Ferry has a good article there on the kitchen garden. So that's talking about getting out in the environment with people, doing the normal interactive thing that we should be doing, not only for the sake of, social connectedness, but for our own, neural system and staying grounded in reality. So I'll point people to those articles as well.
And then let's just give a straight out practical activity that they can take away from the day. Go and walk in nature.
Yeah.
Susie and I, we live near the Sydney Harbour in the harbour. We love to just get up, go down,
Mm.
walk along the harbour, walk through the trees. We've got a nice little park there. One of our sons, he lives near the bush. He sort of backs onto the bushland, and he takes the grandkids. They just go for a walk through the bush, and I remember years ago I was looking at uh, flower essences, and we would just go through the bush looking for the flowers, not just walking through ignoring it, but looking for the flowers. And the last one that I think of is again one I do with my grandkids, is when we see a bit of wood or a timber or a rock or whatever, we'll go and knock on it and see what sound it makes. Uh,
Mm.
just reconnecting our senses to the natural environment.
Yeah.
There's three exercises: walk in the bush, walk by the water, and actually touching the environment.
Fantastic. I've got a bit to say about the right hemisphere and being in the environment and not seeing right angles, but I'll leave that for maybe the
Okay.
time after next.
I don't want right angles or wrong angles. But that's pretty good. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
we might have talked for a little while there, Matt. How do you? I'm thinking that
Yeah.
we're safe to let people go. We've given them some exercises. We've given them some educational stuff they can frame. We've given them some, hopefully, made some sense and
Mm.
at least brought awareness to this thing. And you and I have had a bit of fun.
Fantastic. Oh, and check out the video that I've put up as well on the summary of the article I did on hyperreality and, are we still in touch with reality or not? It's up there for you.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to go check that because I haven't seen the video yet. So for now, Matt, will we say our arrivederci? I'm trying to learn Italian. I'm doing very slowly. Arrivederci. Yeah, arrivederci to our wonderful group of people. And we'll see you next week.
Fantastic. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.